everyone! Today's story is called Olivia Meets Olivia. It's adapted by Ellie O'Ryan. Ring, ring, ring! Mrs. Hoggenmuller rang her cowbell 3 times like she did every morning. Olivia sat up very straight, like she did every morning. School was about to start, and Olivia, like always, was ready. Mrs. Hoggenmuller stood at the front of the class. A new classmate stood next to her. "Good morning, children," Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. "We have a new student joining our class today." A new student? Olivia was so excited. "Can the new girl sit next to me?" she asked. "That would be very nice, Olivia, because you two have a lot in common," Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. "In fact, there's something about you that is absolutely identical. Olivia? Meet Olivia." Olivia's smile disappeared. "But my name is Olivia," she said. "You're both named Olivia," replied Mrs. Hoggenmuller, turning to face the chalkboard. "Now it's time for math. Who knows what 4 plus 2 is?" Both Olivias waved their hands in the air. "Yes, Olivia," Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. But which Olivia did she mean? "She was looking at me," Olivia said. "But she pointed at me," the new Olivia said. "From now on, Olivia will be Olivia 1, and our new Olivia will be Olivia 2, Mrs. Hoggenmuller decided. Olivia couldn't believe it. She had a new girl in her class, a new desk mate, and a new nickname, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. After school, Olivia had lots of questions, so she found someone who had lots of answers: her dad. "How can there be anyone else named Olivia?" she asked. "It isn't fair. Her parents didn't ask if they could use my name." Olivia's dad smiled. "But it's a good thing. It means lots of people like the name. Every year more people name their babies Olivia. Maybe one day everybody will be named Olivia," he joked. Olivia imagined sitting in the kitchen with her family. "Please pass the salt, Olivia," Mom says to Dad. "This is a really good dinner, Olivia," Ian says to Mom. "Ding dong!" goes the doorbell. "Package for Olivia," calls the mailman. "That's me," the entire family replies. Olivia shuddered. It would be terrible if everyone were named Olivia. The next day at school, the confusion over the 2 Olivias continued. "Your turn, Olivia," called Daisy from the slide, but she was talking to the other Olivia. "I'm having a play date with Olivia," Francine exclaimed, but she was talking about the other Olivia. When Mrs. Hoggenmuller passed back the class project, she accidentally switched the 2 Olivia's projects. "You got mine by mistake," Olivia said. "I like yours better," Olivia 2 said. "Let's trade." "But I'd like to take my drawing home," Olivia protested. "Hey, don't be mean to Olivia 2, Olivia 1, Francine said. Olivia sighed. The 2 Olivias in the same class just wasn't going to work. That afternoon, Olivia made a big announcement. "Mom," she said, "I've decided something important. I'm changing my name to Pam." "Because I don't know any other Pams," explained Olivia. "I'd be the only one." "Well, if you want to call yourself Pam, you can," Mom said. "Okay," Olivia exclaimed. "Pam it is." Pam told everyone at school about her new name. Her friends, Mrs. Hoggenmuller, and even Olivia too. "Who knows how many days there are in the week?" Mrs. Hoggenmuller asked. "Olivia?" Pam and Olivia too answered at the same time. "Olivia too gets a gold star," Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. "But I had my hand up first," said Pam. "She called on Olivia," Olivia too said. "Your name is Pam." During recess, Pam did a lot of thinking. "I don't know if Pam is the right name for me," she said to Julian. "You don't want to be called Pam any more?" asked Julian. "I just don't feel very Pam-ish, but I always feel Olivia-ish," she replied. "Definitely," agreed Julian. "You're definitely Olivia-ish." Olivia was very happy to be Olivia once more. After school, she rushed up to her mom. "I decided to be an Olivia again," she announced. "I'm so glad," Olivia's mom replied. "All Olivias are special, but you're especially special to me, Olivia." Olivia knew she had made the right decision to change her name back to Olivia, but there was still the problem of the other Olivia. What was she going to do? Olivia imagined she was in the Wild West, wearing a cowboy hat and a sheriff's badge. "This here town just isn't big enough for two Olivias," Olivia says. "Yeah?" asks Olivia too. "What are you going to do about it?" "We're going to have a duel," Olivia replies. "Whoever loses the duel clears out of town." Each Olivia throws her ball high in the air and catches it. Then they throw their balls even higher. Olivia too reaches and just barely catches her ball. Olivia runs in circles, her arms outstretched. The ball lands in her glove, but then it bounces out. Olivia dives through the dirt and catches the ball just before it hits the ground. "That was some catch," Olivia too says. She is very impressed. "Your catch was pretty good too," Olivia replies. "Let's call it a tie. From now on, this is a two Olivia town." Olivia's daydream gave her an idea. Maybe there was room for two Olivias at school after all. Maybe they could even be friends. During recess, she walked up to Olivia too. "How do you like our school, Olivia too?" she asked. "It's pretty good," Olivia too replied. "I'm glad you like it," Olivia said. She gave Olivia too a big smile, and Olivia too smiled back. "I'll give you back your painting if you want it," Olivia too said shyly. "Thanks. I was thinking that maybe we could start up an Olivia club, just for Olivias," replied Olivia. "That sounds great," said Olivia too. After school, the two Olivias made a clubhouse for the Olivia Club. "What should we do now?" asked Olivia too. Just then, Ian poked his head in the clubhouse. "Can I come in?" he asked. Olivia shook her head. "No, this is a club for Olivias only," she said. The two Olivias tried to think of something to do. Olivia didn't want to play checkers, and Olivia too didn't want to sing a song or play hide and seek. "Hi," called Francine. "Can I play?" "No Francines allowed," Olivia too said sadly. "Only Olivias." The two Olivias looked at each other as they realized that all they had in common was the name Olivia. "A club with Olivias isn't much fun after all," Olivia once said. The two Olivias agreed, so they ran off to play along with Ian and Francine. At bedtime, Olivia had one more question for her dad. Why do you think a bed is called a bed? She asked. It's just a word that someone made up, Dad explained. It's like Olivia is a word meaning me? Olivia asked. That's right, Dad said. Good night, Olivia. The end. Thank you everyone for reading with me. If you would like, and you enjoyed the book, please don't forget to like and subscribe so we can read together again the next time. Bye for now, everyone.